Janet's long-suffering.
Lad, you make me sick.
I think she could have done better than Eric.
That will be all. A man so anally clenched he can fart above the range of human hearing.
Janet! Of course, this is all heightened and strained, but I do think there are possibly marriages where that kind of banter goes on.
Why can't you hang around with your own kind and groom each other?
What is she doing with this man? There must be something special going on in that relationship.
And it is a relationship, and in the end, you don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Are you suggesting there is something unhealthy about my relationship with my wife?
Some strange bedroom tangoing one daren't think.
Who's there?
Susie Travis, new member of staff. She was the newcomer, fresh out of teacher training college, arriving with great hopes that are very quickly replaced by fears.
Eric finds Susie attractive, but he's very suspicious of her, and she quickly establishes herself as his foil.
I'd watch that vein in your temple if I were you. I think it's trying to escape.
A bit nosy, irritating, and always getting in his way.
She becomes part of the team very quickly. She slips into the world of Eric Slatt quite quickly, although she's always in combat with him.
Welcome to your worst day.
One of Susie's characteristics is that she can cut any man down to size.
You sick bird!
She does represent innocence and reason, although she herself gets a little crazy as things progress, as she is drawn into the world of Galfast High.
Sometimes I get a bit student blind myself, and there I was, teaching away. That's why Stephen Moffat is such a great writer, that in the beginning you think she's just going to be the innocent, and she's going to play this very straight, innocent teacher all the way through. But very quickly she gets drawn into this ridiculous world and is revealed to be as unbalanced as all of them. She's found the correct school. She's at the right place. Galfast High has always been waiting for Susie Travis.
Faced with the challenge of representing such an awful place, the production team were particularly taken by the distinctive concrete facade of One North London School.
Ackland Burley School was chosen precisely because of the sort of brutalist architecture, and it very much felt, although the school actually isn't remotely, it felt as if it could be one of those lost places that Galfast High seems to be in the series.
We did a week of filming to begin with. That was the first time we all met. We did a bit of on-location filming. Not very much, actually, as you can see.
It is hard getting laughs without an audience, and when I watch films, you know, especially British films from the 40s and 50s, these amazing comedic performances, you have to remind yourself they're actually on camera doing this and getting laughs and kind of timing things.
And you have to sort of guess when they might laugh when you're doing the location work and the pre-records. And that, of course, feels like one's tempting fate. Oh, that'll be funny, I'll leave a little gap there. And you think, well, what if nobody laughs?
They used to do it in batches or do it nearly all in one go, like Walmington-on-Sea, you know, in Dad's Army, and do them all and then go in the studios.
You've got to give a performance that matches in terms of atmosphere and pace and sort of, you know, where you're pitching things. They have to match, even though they may be 6 weeks apart. Plus there's all the obvious continuity things. You've got to have exactly the same sort of bit of shirt hanging out, because when you do a clean cut from one to the other, the shirt jumps.
I think it's better to do more in the studio. But of course you can't run around playgrounds and have huge school halls full of chairs.
With the location sequences for the entire first series safely in the can, attention now turned to the studio. For each episode, the weekly schedule called for 5 days of rehearsals, followed by the recording on the Sunday.
When we started proper, it started on the Monday, and you'd turn up for rehearsals, you'd get the script, and you'd all sit down with your fresh, crisp script, and you'd all read it.
There was a lovely atmosphere during rehearsals, for which really we have to thank primarily Juliet May. One of the things that marks her out for me is how good she is with actors. And the reason for that is that she genuinely likes actors. She likes their company, she welcomes their input, she's very hungry for invention and comedy.
We got on with the work. There were laughs. Occasionally she had to crack the whip, tell us all to shut up and learn our bloody lines. Rarely. I didn't get too much of the whip cracked from her, but we had great fun.
It also helped greatly that Stephen Moffat was in the rehearsal room a lot as well. Now, I know actors who've described having the writer in the room during rehearsal as quite a problem for them and that they felt inhibited by that. On this occasion, not at all.
Stephen would sort of laugh at the bits he thought you did well, look quite peeved at the bits he felt that you missed, and tell you that you'd missed them or said them really badly, or lose jokes that you felt were wonderful and you were doing a brilliant job with, and he'd just cut them because he felt that you were destroying them.
Often he'd help with the way you were playing something. If you hadn't understood quite what he'd written or why he'd written it, he'd just give you a quiet word and say, why don't you just say a little pause behind that and then have the thought after, and then anything, right, now I've got it, you know.
Sorry, I got a bit distracted during that.
Which part?
Everything after oral.
Stephen is one of those writers whose ear is keenly tuned to the perfection of every phrase that he has polished, and he likes being in rehearsals in the studios because the idea of an actor changing even a pronoun is anathema to him.
With good reason, because it's exceptionally good dialogue. He's not grand. I mean, you know, if you were to say to him, Stephen, I've thought of a better way of doing this, he'd say, great, that's fantastic, do that, because he just wants it to be right. The fact is, he's very hard to beat.
Another feature of rehearsals was some light-hearted teasing about just how differently a certain someone might have played Slat.
I do remember there being ribbing about Angus Dayton's ghost of a performance in the room. I remember Juliet doing that to David sometimes, and David wholeheartedly embracing it and running with it.
Certainly one can see him, that rather sort of, you know, educated, acerbic delivery, and I'm sure it'd have been very good.
Cremated.
What, all of him? We'll be there all day.
I don't think he's probably as physical as I am.
I just think David Bamber's absolutely brilliant at all of that stuff. I can't imagine Angus Dayton rutting the filing cabinet while cutting his trousers and pants off.
It happens in Hollywood to actors. I mean, a lot of films you see with leading performances, they wanted other people in those parts, even bigger and swankier than the big swanky people that you're watching on the screen.
But I must admit, to this day, I wonder what a gorgeous, sardonic, more laid-back piece Angus would have made of it.
But he probably had a number of other projects at the time, so thank you.
No, excellent.
You come back every day inching a bit further forward to a performance, and suddenly you're in this huge machine, and it goes from being a very intimate affair for a week to it being actually about making this programme, and a massive audience is wheeled in, and the warm-up man comes in, and you're trotted out to introduce yourself.
That horror where you have to walk round the cameras and curtsy to the audience before you begin, and they're all hyped up from the wonderful warm-up man we had.
And there are kids, extras, and they all look really terrifying and quite hard. That's what I remember mainly, that they looked really hard and cool, and we just looked like teachers. Not very hard and not very cool, and a bit scared.
I could never find my way through the cameras, which I think became a joke with the people running the whole thing, because in the end I was left to do it behind a wall.
7:29 when you're called on set, that the adrenaline goes and you find yourself farting gently with nerves.
We'd all troop on slightly, sort of, either gurning or slightly bashfully, as ourselves, before we got into position.
After having been yourself and then you have to go on and be somebody else, the relief, having people laugh at you, is wonderful.
Look, it's ringing. I knew he could do that.
If people forget their lines, an audience has to be told, please remember this is the first time you've seen it. It's not the same. You're not going to get that joy and the surprise that a writer like Stephen gives you. And that's a frightening situation to be in.
The audience, as I recall, used to absolutely love the retake section. And that was always my favourite bit of the night, because we all love it when things go wrong. And they were willing you to do well, but of course if you messed it up 3, 4, 5 times, they thought that was even better.
And we did get the giggles. There was one recording where we got terrible giggles. I think it was series 2.
I fear, in a very unprofessional way, it was mainly done by me and Martin Ball. In fact, I know it was.
It all got a bit tense. Shouting came down from the on high.
In the first series, because it was also new, I don't think we'd have dared, or if we did, it was quite contained. By the second series, it was just it was all out, open, laughing in each other's faces, and us getting told off repeatedly down the cans.
I think I was trying to get tickets for Alan Partridge. You know, that was about the right kind of time. And I rang up, and the BBC didn't have any. That's, part of the course. But they said, oh, what we have got is this new sitcom. Oh, it's been doing very well. Oh, the audience love it. Absolutely fantastic.
But I can remember on the nights, the laughing was outrageous from the live audience.
You've married your mother. That's not a relationship. It's an attempt at re-entry.
It's obvious to see why it's so theatrical. Even with a television set rather than a theatrical set, when you have that farce happening in front of you and it's so character-driven, it's impossible not to be taken along with it.
Hello, Mr. McGill. Nice cat, kid.
We were being told, don't play to it, don't look for it, and we really weren't. David Bamber was just doing exactly what he'd done in the rehearsal room, and that produced these huge rolling laughs. A lot of the time, I think they were taken down.
I really enjoyed it. I think it was really, really funny. The episode was called Mother.
Moffat's script called for Geraldine Fitzgerald to play an extra role as Slat's mother in addition to his wife, and what's more, over a period of 60 years.
I didn't quite understand how it was going to work, but I was just told, don't worry, say your lines, hit your mark, get your old slap on, and it'll be fine. It was nerve-wracking.
Oh, my God.
Mrs. Slat.
It was quite hairy doing that episode. I had no idea what it was going to be like. It was rather frightening.
God, why did you have to make 2 of those?
Stephen's attitude towards his writing always throws delightful challenges at any production team. I've often mused of late that, thinking of the problems he used to set us on chalk, he must be having a whale of a time with Doctor Who, with setting up 9-dimensional problems where I only had to deal with 3-dimensional problems.
It was never quite the same after the sextuplets.
One big difference between the show that I saw recorded and the one that went to air was the ending. In the aired version, you see a portrait of Slat and the family, all the identical daughters. In the original show, the grown-up daughters kind of all walked past him.
Now I know what I'm going to look like when I'm 75.
In addition to the practicalities, Moffat's scripts were expensive to realise, something that would provide an unexpected bonus for Martin Ball.
It was a small part, but there were such lovely scripts, I didn't hesitate to take the part. It was lovely. And then while we were doing the first 5, Stephen wrote the 6th. By that point, the budget had been completely used up. We could have no more guest actors coming in. So Stephen thought the safest thing to do was to contrive to lock everyone in the staff room. And he gave me a lot to do in that one, which was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, really got my teeth into that.
They actually started learning. I'm a maths teacher, I'm not used to that.
And very sweetly, having a drink afterwards on last night, he said, you did great with the, having more to do. I promise I won't underwrite you next year if there's a second series.
Bungee de Quiltfang. Metallurgical whipsnade keebles to Kitoff.
I may have had it written down. I think more likely I sort of looked down and pretended to read it and learnt it. I'm just a bit old-fashioned like that. I just think if you've got to say it, learn it.
Follicles diddy bongo.
I don't think it would have mattered hugely what I'd come out with, although Stephen did write some very good gobbledygook.
Mr. Slat, quickly, the television.
What?
And where else might the budget-conscious producer make savings?
So far, we've seen no sign of movement. But Gail Bennett, the Galfast High pupil, complaining of not only her own ill-treatment, but of the massacre of the Astrantian peasants.
Stephen Moffat is a very, very inventive writer. The way he drives the plot forward, he has some wonderful comic fantasies.
Down with fellatio! Down with fellatio!
A lot of men have been in that situation where they desperately need to pee and can't. This is taking that the mile on.
Stephen Moffat does take an awful lot of scenes and characters from his other works and put them into chalk. You'll see various characters of various situations from Press Gang. The bully character turns up. There's a clinical psychiatrist, the same character.
I'm Dr. Clipston.
There's a neighbouring school.
Norbridge High has already expressed an interest.
The neighbouring school to Norbridge in Press Gang is the school where chalk is set. And so you get those little kind of crossovers, which I think about 7 people will have identified, and at least 3 of them must have been in his family.
Stephen has a way of producing people at their very worst, I think. He makes you do embarrassing situations.
I'd like to offer myself as a vessel.
So we're laughing at the enormity of some of the situations that he wrote for us. I mean, pushing the boundaries and the sort of farcical things. When we go, my God, he's not going to make us do that, is he?
I remember reading every single episode round the table and screaming with laughter, and then noticing the actor who was going through it was actually having a horrible time.
we used to sort of flinch, wondering what unscreenable horror Stephen would put in the middle of it. And there were always some absolute gems with Stephen pushing the boundaries of taste.
I thought that was my mouth.